Hello, YouTube. I Fix It All here. Team I Fix It All. Um, the updates. We got the big red thing in the back inserted. That would be this thing, which does nothing more than have a notch provision around the perimeter to hold the rear seat. And then the rear seat back is hinged, so it pulls down. For the people on KPRG or the Samba, I did not put the factory foam wrap around these heaters, the heater ducts. So I'm using this tape for now, and over the next few months I'll monitor it, see if the tape comes loose. If it does, I'll wrap it with more tape and I'll put flashing around it and a band of safety wire or a clamp on each side. Alright, so we're doing paint, and we're doing paint meaning paint out of a can. Now what I mean by paint out of a can is it is exactly the color paint that I will be spraying out of my paint spray gun. But we are getting the car situated to where we can load up the interior and get the car back on the road again, but have all the interior painting done. And all that remains is for me to remove all of the exterior lighting buckets and bumpers and chrome and yada yada. Bring the car outside and disc sand those 11 layers on this sucker off down to metal. I don't know if that's smart or not. I gotta think about that a little bit, because if I put sandpaper on the bare metal, the galvanized coating will be compromised. I gotta think about that some more. But definitely we're gonna get as much of this paint off as possible. But the exact color paint can be, welcome to the shop. Welcome to the shop with my 87 Mercury Cougar 331 stroker and all the goodies, and voila, during testing the transmission failed. Alright, you can get your car any color paint you want from Napa, and it's a fill one, yes, master blend. It doesn't tell me what color it is. They give you on the cap the color, not the spray nozzle, but the cap has a dot of the color, and it's supposed to be the exact paint color that you need or the change in color that you want. That would be equal to the exact mix in the exact same fashion as what you would mix if you used your spray gun, which that's my Devil Bliss, if I could pronounce it right. So what we're trying to achieve here is to get all of the visible interior areas that need to be the same color as the exterior completed. And now we can start to tell that that's going to include areas like the window seal areas, the package tray, the perimeter of the windshield, the dashboard, even though we're going to have a brand new dash cover and brand new dash face. We're doing undercoat in this area. Okay, all the way down to the second step, right down to here. But from like here on up, needs to be blue on the inside. Those areas through there, especially the top portions, and the doors and all the other areas that we know is going to be exposed. That big pipe over there leads up to the dash that lets heat defrost the dash, and so on and so forth. So you get the idea that we're prepping in the interior necessary areas for the color paint that is ultimately going to match the exterior. And yeah, this is the way this car is going to run around this winter. It's going to have the rubber, brand new rubber seal, and a lot of blue, so that when we go to sand the car off, I have a point where I know I can stop sanding the red off and get down to a surface I can work with to prime and paint that color everywhere else. Now to the fuel tank. I'm putting the fuel tank in. It's just reverse operation. This is an aftermarket fuel tank. I'm not sure. I'm a YouTube virgin. It's J-Bugs, and we're getting parts from them. But the point I want to make is that a gas tank that they supplied us with. Here's the problem. The gas tank design is intended so that that fill neck right there is in a straight line with the actual fuel fill. Well, that's the fuel neck, and that's the fuel neck. So this is the fill neck over here, and that's the fuel tank fill port. Yes. The other item up here, that little 1/2 inch pipe, related to the other 1/2 inch pipe, they're not lined up straight either. That's a vent. I think it's a vent. Trying to think. I don't recall, but anyway, it needs to have a hose coming from there to there. And then the fill neck needs a hose to go from there to there. Well, you can see that they are not a straight trajectory in both cases. I can deal with the small tubing because that hose will bend easy. But what they shipped me was real bona fide fuel hose, and it is bendy and all that. The problem I have with it is the original tank was correct, and here's where the problem is. And move some stuff out of the way. When they stamp the top half of this tank out, this flat area in here, you'll notice it's not straight, it's at an angle. This flat area, we're at an angle. I'm going to come straight down on the tank. So the angle of this flat steel is too steep, meaning when they add this fuel neck on, their fuel neck is on the same plane as the angle of this backing plate here. It's same plane as this plane. The angle needs to be, instead of being so steep, it needs to be more shallow. And that is exactly what the original fuel tank had. This angle here is not as steep. Being as it's steeper, it carried the fuel neck angle more and threw off the alignment from the fuel neck to the fuel fill neck. Why does it matter? This is the trunk of the car. This is where food goes. This is where objects go. This is how you haul groceries home, because there's a liner that installs in here, and heavy objects will, a liner that's made of nothing more than just, I call it like a masonite cardboard type material. But when heavy objects get stored in here, the angle of my fuel hose will be up higher before I'm able to turn it down and connect it to here. Since it's going to be up higher, up higher, my liner is directly sitting on top of the fuel tank. What am I doing? Okay, so my liner sits right on the fuel tank. Absolutely right on it. So right away, if I'm running into that neck with my hand, that's a fail. That neck needs to be turned down more. Since I'm going to be up higher than the fuel tank, heavy groceries and items will put pressure on that fuel connection point, and this sharp edge will ultimately eat into the fuel hose connection and possibly allow for fuel to in the future leak in, and fumes. And on the side of that, on the other side of that thin piece of sheet metal, is a human being over there at the very least driving the car. Not to mention our wonderful electrics, which none of that intimidates me. I can rework every bit of that and make it better. I definitely want to. It's on my list. I just don't want to use a factory harness because they're going to still follow the same hokey process that you see here. This stuff just needs to be done better, especially when I do electrical for a career. Alrighty, so that's it. I'm coming out here in a little bit to finish wrapping up the fuel tank, and I need to fabricate a cover right here because I was missing one, and I need to fabricate a cover for here, I think. Yes, because it was missing that one. I only had one cover, which was over here. And of course I know what all that's for, and I'm not going to speak to that because there's the front hole in the nose of the car. It has to do with taking out the transmission shifter linkage through the transmission tunnel. It's so long, all that linkage. It runs the full length of the car, and of course old-fashioned tricks were to torch the tunnel open. As you can see, somebody's been in there once upon a time to torch themselves a little hatch to open in both areas. Not sure what that's all about, but anywho, moving right along, and that's it. Thank you.